A couple in Texas claim to have captured the elusive chupacabra. For those who don't know what the chupacabra is, it's a mythical creature known for attacking livestock and sucking the blood from farm animals. Specifically, it loves slurping blood from cows and goats. Sightings of the creature have been reported primarily in Latin America, though they have spread recently into the southern United States. The Texas couple who allegedly caught the creature are residents of Radcliffe, and amazingly, they captured it alive. The creature has a hairless back, very large claws, and a mouth filled with teeth. According to an eyewitness, a local hunter in the region, he has never seen anything like it in 20 years. It's definitely not a raccoon or opossum, and it makes a noise unlike any local Texas animal. Brent Ortego with Texas Parks and Wildlife says it's some kind of small canine, maybe a fox, but it certainly doesn't look like one. The creature was handed over to wildlife officials who have been feeding it cat food and corn, though it still hasn't been properly identified and could realistically be anything, even a mutant.
The marine hatchet fish is perhaps the ghostliest creature in the ocean. These things have the most horrifying faces of any fish ever. In fact, they almost look like screaming people with great big eyes, or maybe they even look like ghosts. They get their name because of their hatchet shape, and they can be found throughout most of the tropical and subtropical oceans in the world. While the fish seems innocent enough when looking at it from its side, it's really their faces that leave people unnerved. They appear to be in great agony. These fish typically live in the twilight zone, just a few hundred feet beneath the surface of the water. There's still enough light in this area for their eyes to be useful, which may be why they grew to be so big. In fact, their eyes are even angled in a weird upwards position to soak in as much of the sunlight as possible. They then use the shadows of crustaceans and fish to hunt for prey. And if you're wondering why the hatchet fish is so thin, it's to help them avoid predators. Since they don't cast a very large shadow, other predators can't use their same hunting method against them. And to make these fish even creepier, they have bioluminescent photophores on their undersides that emit a cool blue light, essentially turning the fish invisible to the ghoulish twilight of the ocean.
Imagine going fishing only to uncover something that's never been seen anywhere on Earth before. That's right. A teenager on a fishing trip in Mexico recently caught something that was described as an alien creature. The team was fishing off the coast of Cabo San Lucas when he reeled in the disturbing animal. The pictures uploaded online of the teenager and his weird catch are definitely real, but a bit of investigation revealed that he didn't actually catch an alien. He got something even stranger. Even stranger than an alien? Well, this might have actually hit that mark. The pale, sunburnt animal he reeled in was in fact an albino shark. This is very rare in the animal kingdom and a once-in-a-lifetime catch. Even the fishing guide, who had been in the business for 25 years, didn't know what it was. This is basically a shiny Pokemon. It wasn't until much later that David Ebert from the Pacific Shark Research Center identified the beast as an albino swell shark. These types of sharks are common off the coast of Mexico where the young teen was fishing. However, not even the shark expert had ever seen an albino version. Albinism is pretty rare in animals, and finding a rare species with a rare condition? Forget about it. For all we know, this could be the only albino swell shark in the world. The swell shark got its name because it swells its body up like a pufferfish when it feels threatened. It also fell victim to the mortal enemy of the albino, the powerful rays of the sun. Without sunscreen, it was seriously damaged by the sunlight, as it had been clearly roasted by the light and its back was all red and blistered. Speaking of mutants, a weird fish that has been terrifying locals in Russia was finally caught, and some claim it's a ferocious mutant. The mysterious fish was reported trying to bite people living near Lake Krugau, Siberia. The fish had rows of sharp teeth and an unusually thick tail that it could use to whack people on the feet. Some fear the mutant fish is the result of radioactive waste dumped into the lake by a nearby chemical factory. It's about 4 feet long and was finally hooked by a fisherman who took some photos of the creature after dumping it on land. It seems to have the head of a giant piranha yet the body of a small cod, making it look both scary and disturbing. However, experts later identified the creature as a wolfish, not a mutant. But this doesn't make the mystery any less mysterious because wolfish are usually found in the Arctic Sea, not in Siberian lakes. How it got there is a total mystery.
With a name like horror frog, you know this creature is going to be weird. There's the fact that the horror frog grows the most disgusting hair you've ever seen. No, frogs are not supposed to be hairy. But there is so much more to the horror frog than simply its weird hair. According to a researcher from the Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology, horror frogs break their own bones to produce claws that puncture through their toe pads. Basically, they shatter their own bones in their hands so that the jagged pieces stick through their skin and they can use their bone claws as a defense mechanism. It's a pretty scary mechanism and not something I would suggest trying. While some frogs have bony spines that protect them from predators, the horror frog makes its own. But it's not all bad. Considering the horror frog is an amphibian, most researchers agree that it can likely heal itself and regenerate tissue after breaking its bones. And as for the weird hair that grows along its legs and onto its torso, researchers believe it helps the frog to take in more oxygen while caring for a brood of young. The frog itself is relatively rare, and they are considered somewhat of a delicacy in Cameroon, where to this day hunters still use spears and machetes to catch the frogs to eat them. They allegedly have to use spears to avoid being cut up by the frog's bony claws.
A man in South Texas captured the most monstrous bullfrog you've ever seen in your life. This thing wasn't exactly scary unless you're the size of a fly, but it was certainly freaky. Marcus Rangel posted the photos of him and his monstrous catch on Facebook, immediately getting attention from all across the country. According to ABC News, Marcus captured the huge bullfrog in a pond completely by accident while trying to reel in some fish. He even claimed to have caught 3 of the massive beasts in a single week. How big was this huge frog? According to the lucky fisherman, it weighed an outstanding 6 kilos. It was so big that it looked more like a space alien than a frog. Some people even referred to the giant bullfrog as Godzilla's cousin. However, there has been some doubt shared over the authenticity of the huge bullfrog. It needs to be evaluated by scientists first, because the biggest bullfrog known to science is the Goliath bullfrog from West Africa, which only grows to be 3 kilos. Either this guy really did catch the biggest frog in the world, or he's lying about the weight of it. A tourist was recently left baffled after a strange sea monster photobombed them. The tourist from Scotland, Harvey Robertson, was on a boat cruise with his family in Corfu, Greece, when he took a bunch of photographs inside a creepy sea cave. He was holding the camera over the edge of the boat and taking pictures of the black water. When he checked the photographs later, he realized that a strange monster was caught in one of the frames. According to Robertson himself, he had no idea what the thing was and had never seen anything like it before in all his life. So far, nobody has been able to identify the weird beast. It doesn't help that the picture is a little blurry. However, some have suggested it could be some strange sea creature from Greek mythology, like an ugly siren still living inside the cave, completely unknown to science.
You might not be surprised that this next animal exists. Everyone has heard of cobras that can spit venom into a person's face, but most of us probably haven't thought much about it. The truth is that there is a large spitting cobra living in Kenya, and it can definitely spit venom straight into your mouth and eyes. According to Wildlife Direct, the world's largest spitting cobra was discovered in Kenya in 2007. And get ready to be scared, because this creature has no business existing on Earth. The species measures 15 feet long and has the capability of spitting venom and injecting venom with its fangs. And while the venom is completely harmless if it just hits your skin, the issue is when it splashes into your eyes or gets into your mouth. If you come across one of these snakes and it spits at you, the venom could instantly cause blindness. And if the venom gets into your mouth, some of it could leak into your stomach and eventually into your bloodstream. And of course, there's always the chance that you could just get a pair of fangs into your flesh like any other snake, which of course would be very bad news. But there is some good news. All poisonous snakes are typically killed on sight in East Africa. You aren't likely to run into a giant viper that can spit in your face and blind you. But still, it's frightening to know that these serpents exist.
A man in China claims to have captured a flying dragon on camera. That's right, a literal dragon with wings flying through the sky. And while this might seem like the most amazing thing ever captured, ever, others say the man is lying. According to the original story, the flying creature was spotted near the border of China and Laos. If not a dragon, some have claimed the mysterious animal could be an offshoot of the powerful extinct pterodactyl still living in the largely uninhabited forests of Laos, where some rural people still live in primitive huts, and where any number of mysterious beasts could still be alive. I don't know if I believe that, but stranger things have been discovered in the remote jungles of the world, so it could be possible. But unfortunately, this is one of those weird discoveries that is impossible to either prove or disprove. It's hard to believe there is a flying creature this terrifying anywhere in the world, but if the captured video is fake, it's also a little hard to prove it. In the end, we just have to take these kinds of amazing sightings with a grain of salt. Have you ever seen a creature that might have been unknown to science? Maybe a cryptid like Bigfoot, or something even scarier? Tell me about your experience in the comment section below. Then remember to subscribe to Epic Wildlife if you like this video. More awesome videos are coming soon. A giant rat has been pulled out of the sewer in Mexico City. Local residents had their socks scared off their feet when the huge rat was hoisted out of the drainage system. The rat stood over 6 feet tall and was dumped onto the concrete along with 22 tons of trash and rubbish pulled out of the underground by city workers. Of course, it wasn't a real rodent at all, but a realistic Halloween prop. Still, the bizarre catch was enough to freak out people who saw it, with some of them first thinking there really were mutant rats living in their sewers. Later, a woman named Evelyn Lopez came forward to claim the rat as her own creation. She crafted the thing herself, but it had washed away several years ago during a big storm. How in the world such a giant rat managed to wash down into the sewers is beyond reason. How did it even fit? But hey, at least her and the big ugly rat have been reunited. Maybe she'll use it as a decoration next Halloween.
The Satanic leaf-tailed gecko is actually a real creature, and it is creepy. Poor thing can't help it. However, you may have seen a photograph circling the internet of a demonic-looking lizard with bat wings, and while the gecko is close, the Satanic leaf-tailed gecko doesn't actually have wings. The lizard in the photograph is indeed a leaf-tailed gecko, but somebody photoshopped wings onto it. It's scary enough on its own without making it look like some kind of crazy baby dragon. The real leaf-tailed gecko is fascinating. It may not be able to fly, but it is a very cool little dragon. It has an extremely unique appearance and one of the best camouflage techniques in the animal kingdom. These critters live mostly in the rainforest areas of Madagascar, and even though they sometimes look like little dragons, more often than not they actually just look like leaves. These geckos have evolved to perfectly blend into their environments, meaning that when they live in the trees, it's hard to discern between the gecko and a fallen leaf. They can change their colour in response to mood and environment, just like a chameleon. If you're wondering why such an innocent gecko got such a horrendous name, it's exactly because the biologist who found it, George Bullinger, was just as shocked as you are by its demonic red eyes. In any case, this is definitely the coolest gecko on the planet.
This next terrifying monster is definitely real. A giant sea creature weighing an unbelievable 1.3 tons was recently hauled up from the depths of the ocean. It's believed to be the biggest of its kind ever captured by humans. It was so big that the fishermen needed to use a crane just to lift the huge thing onto the deck of their boat. What kind of animal was it? It was a huge manta ray, and I mean huge, of biblical proportions. The creature was captured by local fisherman Mithun Kunda in India. Before this massive manta ray was caught, the record holder for biggest ever was just 1.1 tons, caught in Peru back in 2015. This one was significantly bigger, only captured because it got accidentally tangled in a fishing net 100 meters deep. According to the report in the Daily Star, it could fetch upwards of $850. That's not bad for a single catch. The ray measured 10 meters wide, which is honestly incredible, because the average that a manta ray grows is 7 meters across. And even though this thing is such a giant, it's actually quite a gentle animal. It filter feeds using its huge mouth, slurping up tiny ocean animals known as zooplankton, usually things like krill and shrimp. But don't let that fool you. This beast could crush you if it felt threatened. Better to steer clear. In Montana, a rancher shot and killed something that looked like a small werewolf. Either that, or it was an unusually mutated bear, or a real-life direwolf. The animal looked very strange and puzzled animal experts all over the nation. Was it an ordinary wolf that happened to look a little weird, or a true monster? According to CBS News, the mystery of the killed werewolf was so serious that a DNA test was ordered to determine the true identity of the animal. After the hunter killed the animal, he contacted Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. They showed up to take photos of it and post them online. It had grayish fur, a very large head, and legs that were a little too short to belong to a wolf. After a month of waiting, the DNA tests finally came back, and the mystery was solved. In the end, it was just an ordinary grey wolf. This is according to testing done by the US Fish and Wildlife Service at their lab in Oregon. Nobody knows why the wolf looked so unusual, like a scrappy little monster. Maybe it was just born with abnormally short legs and an unusually terrifying face filled with sharp, werewolf-like teeth.
The lobster moth caterpillar is perhaps the ugliest caterpillar you've ever seen. The lobster moth itself is actually quite normal. It just looks like any large moth with its white and grey wings and fuzzy body. It's the caterpillar that doesn't look like it should exist. It's not dangerous, it's just unusual and a little scary to look at. It's like a weird mix between a lobster, a caterpillar, and a scorpion. Take everything you know about garden variety caterpillars and throw it all out the window. The lobster moth caterpillar is unusual in that it mimics the behaviour of an ant or a spider to ward off predators. They have extremely long legs on their thorax that constantly twist about like a spider's legs. And if you thought this horrifying monster caterpillar was something that only lives in the deep jungles of the Amazon, you were wrong. The lobster moth caterpillar is actually distributed all throughout Great Britain. This is a caterpillar that any English person might find hanging out on the leaves of their garden. The most obvious comparison is that it looks like a lobster. And even though it's not dangerous to you, the caterpillar is able to shoot a type of formic acid, which is normally something only found in ant venom, as a defense against predators.
A great white shark was captured by accident when it got tangled in a fisherman's net after it choked to death. Even though the circumstances surrounding the monster's capture are a bit grim, it still left the fisherman who hauled it onto his boat stunned. Greg Vella was the man who accidentally caught the beast while fishing in Japan. The reason the shark choked to death and got caught in the net in the first place was that it tried to swallow a huge turtle but couldn't stomach it. The massive turtle got stuck in the shark's mouth, causing it to choke and die. When the enormous monster was hauled onto the boat, it still had the turtle wedged in its jaws with blood foaming out of its mouth. The poor fisherman had been looking for tuna, not sea monsters. The shark weighed an amazing 2,200 kilos, making it a very literal monster. But believe it or not, this shark actually pales in comparison to what is believed to be the largest great white shark ever seen, nicknamed Deep Blue. Deep Blue is believed to be at least 50 years old and around 6 meters long, last seen swimming off the coast of Mexico. A horrifying sea monster has been caught near the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It was one of the rarest catches that a fisherman can make in the state, about as rare as sighting the legendary skunk ape. After a brutal 20 minutes of playing tug-of-war with the unknown creature, Kevin Thoreau finally gained enough ground to yank it out of the water. That was when he saw what it was, a sawfish. Sawfish catches are very rare. The animal itself is something of an underwater enigma. It has a long, heavy body that it uses to lay on the bottom of the sea where it hunts. The fish also has a pair of dorsal fins and a powerful tail that make it quite the fisherman's adversary. Of course, the most prominent feature of the sawfish is its huge saw, what marine biologists call a rostrum. It sticks out of the fish's face like a hedge trimmer, about 5 feet long. The enormous fish uses its saw to stun small fish. It swings the saw back and forth until it hits something. Then it collects whatever it managed to stun from the bottom of the sea.
Just take one look at the bearcat and decide whether it's a cat or a bear. You can't. It's literally impossible. The creature definitely has the lazy attitude and thin whiskers of a cat, but it has the shaggy black hair of a small bear. The only way you would be right is if you guessed neither. The bearcat is not a bear or a cat. It actually belongs to the civet and mongoose family, though it certainly doesn't look like any mongoose I've ever seen. The bearcat is something that should be stuck in a fantasy book, but instead it really does live among us, spending most of its time relaxing in the trees, foraging for fruit on branches, and acting a lot like a lazy sloth. These creatures lurk primarily in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and they are considered at risk by the IUCN. But if you thought a mongoose that looks like a cross between a bear and a cat was weird already, wait until you hear about the distinctive odour of the bearcat. It's one of the only animals in the world that gives off a scent like hot popcorn. How did evolution come up with that? Oh yeah, and even though it's weird, the bearcat is still ridiculously adorable. They can live for at least 17 years in captivity and grow to be roughly 3 feet long. As for those adorable whiskers on the front of its face, it uses them to feel its way around in the dark while it forages for something to eat. These are night hunting creatures and can typically only be spotted when the sun goes down.
The Metepec creature sits on the border between scientific fact and legendary myth. What we do know about it is that it's about the size of a cat. It has whitish skin, an abnormally large head, and it almost looks like a very small grey alien. The creature was allegedly captured by a man named Urso Ruiz, who caught the thing inside a trap for snakes. The creature was witnessed alive inside the trap by 4 people working at the same ranch as Urso, but unfortunately, everyone became scared of the animal and decided to kill it and get rid of it. They actually thought the creature was an alien. And to make things even stranger, shortly after the story of the creature went public, The owner of the ranch where it was caught died in a mysterious car fire that some claim was caused by the aliens who were looking for revenge for the death of their small friend. There is still a large body of evidence that supports the idea that the whole thing was a hoax, including a changing story by Mr. Ruiz. However, the debate still rages to this day over the identity of the mysterious creature that he captured. There was no evidence to rule out an alien, and some believe Urso was coerced into changing his story. A fishing crew recently captured a colossal squid that weighed about half a ton and may just be the biggest of its kind ever captured by human beings. It weighs an estimated 990 pounds and is 39 feet long from the tip of its tentacle to the top of its head. It took the fishermen about 2 hours to catch it in Antarctic waters, according to the fisheries minister Jim Anderton in New Zealand. The fishermen weren't actually looking for a squid. Instead, they were trying to catch Patagonian toothfish south of New Zealand. The squid accidentally got hooked and was reeled all the way to the surface, but by the time it breached the water, it was pretty much already dead. The crew then had to work to get the specimen on board without damaging it. Not only is this the biggest colossal squid ever caught, it's also the first adult male specimen to have ever been successfully captured while still alive. But what's the difference between the giant squid and the colossal squid? The giant squid is actually bigger. Think of the colossal squid like its smaller, less frightening cousin. They can only grow to be about 46 feet, whereas the giant squid can grow to be over 60 feet. These beasts of the deep descend to around 6,500 feet beneath the surface and are notorious for being vicious hunters. The creature captured had eyes about the size of dinner plates and was transported to New Zealand's National Museum for scientific study.
Everyone's familiar with the anglerfish. We all know about the horrifying deep-sea monster with the glowing fishing rod attached to its head so that it can trick prey into swimming into its jaws. But if you thought the standard anglerfish was a freak of nature, just take a look at the wolf trap anglerfish. This thing literally has a fishing rod growing out of its forehead. It's also horrifying to look at. Their jaws are enormous, just like any other anglerfish, but it's the colour that really makes a person's hair stand on end. The wolf trap anglerfish looks like a demonic monster that should be in another dimension rather than swimming around in the Earth's oceans. As for that lure dangling off the fishing rod inserted into its forehead, it's probably known as an esker, which is a bioluminescent appendage type deal with a hook on it. This has led researchers to speculation over how exactly the fish uses the bait. Some scientists think it casts the lure forward to entice fish to get near it, and this could be right. Not many studies have been done regarding this bizarre fish. Other than being horribly ugly, the other big difference between the wolf trap anglerfish and other anglerfish is that it lives in part of the ocean known as the abyss, about 13,000 feet below the surface. Other anglerfish typically live in the twilight zone or the midnight zone, up to only 6,600 feet.
An absolutely bizarre species of mutant sea creature was recently found by a fisherman in Singapore. The creature in question was unlike anything the fisherman had ever seen before. He was fishing at his favorite spot on the coast of the island of Sentosa when he reeled in a moving and wriggling beast with tentacles, something that looked a lot like an octopus, but definitely wasn't. It had tons of arms, it looked kind of mutated, and it wasn't identified by any of the other locals. The people truly believed they had found something totally new to science. It wasn't until a marine biologist from Sydney named Dr. Will Figuera saw pictures of the creature that he was able to identify it as a known species. It wasn't a monster at all, but actually something called a basket star, a type of starfish unlike anything most people are used to. The starfish actually uses its dozens of tentacles to catch prey. It can't move very quickly, but its tentacles are amazingly able to do all the work for it, reaching for any living creature foolish enough to get too close. Reports have been coming in that a tourist managed to get some video footage of an unknown humanoid creature captured in a cage inside an abandoned Romanian zoo. Before we go any further, keep in mind that other than the obscure video footage posted online by the young tourist, there has been no confirmation of the creature's existence by any mainstream media or professional scientists. But here's what the tourist says happened. He was visiting Ornești City in Romania and decided to check out an abandoned zoo that closed down in 2007 for unknown reasons. After asking around a bit with the locals, the tourist heard rumors that the zoo was actually once used for genetic experiments. After the tourist, who refused to give his name, snuck into the abandoned zoo, he recorded a strange being trapped inside of a cage. It screamed and flailed and made horrible noises, and the tourist ran off scared for his life. He didn't dare go back or even discuss what he'd seen until he was far away from the city. To this day, we have no answer or explanation for what he witnessed. If it was a genetically modified creature or the result of some failed human experiment.
This is the thorny devil, a small Australian lizard completely covered in thorns. It almost looks like a walking thorn bush. The lizard lives in the dry scrublands and deserts of most of the country, and its entire body is covered in spikes and scales to ward off predators. And while this isn't actually that shocking for a lizard, the real oddity here is that the thorny devil has a false head located at the back of its neck. Through all the years of evolution, this lizard has actually grown a redundant head on its neck that it can show to predators when under attack. The logic here is that the lizard will hide its true head while its predator bites off the fake head. It's basically the lizard equivalent of having a decoy wallet so that you don't get robbed. Luckily, the thorny devil is not under any threat of extinction. According to the IUCN, it's labelled under least concern. This means you might even stumble upon one of these small spiky monsters on your next trip to the Australian desert. But then again, maybe not. The lizard can run faster than humans can, so good luck catching it.
99 million years before today, a small lizard got itself stuck in a rather unfortunate position. The lizard was most likely crawling up a tree when it got caught in some sticky resin exuded from the bark. That sticky resin is what scientists call amber, and the amber managed to capture the lizard and preserve it in perfect condition until archaeologists found it just a few years ago. But this lizard isn't like most lizards alive today. It's a little bit creepy and a little bit mysterious. At first, researchers thought it was the smallest dinosaur ever discovered. It wasn't until they took a closer look that they realized it was just an unusual lizard. Its needle-like teeth were fused to its jawbones. It was quite similar to a bird, with a bumpy tongue similar to what modern robins have, directed backwards to stop prey from creeping out of its mouth. Oh yeah, and the lizard was tiny, smaller than a bumblebee. Honestly, if creatures like that showed up in my backyard, I'd be freaked out too. Russian fishing enthusiast Roman Fedortsov spends most of his days on fishing trawlers. At 39 years old, he's been working on trawlers for just about half his life on this planet. Recently, he began uploading some photographs he's collected of the bizarre animals that he reeled up from the deepest depths of the ocean. Most of these creatures come from the Norwegian or Barents Sea, some even from the Atlantic Ocean. According to Roman himself, some of the most bizarre fish he's caught include frilled shark, big sunfish, stoplight loosejaw, and even rabbitfish. But not all his catches are recognizable. For example, there was one fish he reeled in that had an eyeball growing out of its back. Nobody knows what the weird creature was. Just another unidentified freaky fish from the darkest deeps of the ocean. Maybe even a mutant, three-eyed fish.
This has to be one of the most boggling crustaceans ever found in the ocean. Scientists often refer to the mantis shrimp as a super shrimp, and it's perhaps the most effective death machine living under the water. Even though the mantis shrimp is only 4 inches long and colourfully ugly with big bulging eyes and a strange orange body, it's outrageously strong. Pound for pound, it's one of the strongest animals in the world. And here's where it gets crazy. Rather than snatching prey with fangs or claws, the mantis shrimp punches its meal into submission. The mantis shrimp has clubs attached to its body that it uses for punching its prey, hitting with a force from a .22 caliber handgun bullet. That's how strong this little shrimp is. It can literally shatter the shells of crabs and clams with one punch. It's like the one-punch shrimp. Even when scientists are capturing mantis shrimps to study, they have to bring specialized plastic tanks because the shrimps are so strong they can punch their way out of glass tanks. And here's how the punch works. The shrimp's club mechanism is spring-loaded, kind of like a crossbow. When they release their club, it accelerates at 50 miles per hour and hits with a massive force of over 2,500 times the weight of the shrimp. So yeah, the strangely colourful mantis shrimp is definitely a spectacular super being.
An angler in China recently captured something that you won't believe really exists. It was a fish with the head of a pigeon. And yes, it was 100% real. Witnesses were so shocked when the fishermen pulled this bizarre creature out of the water that they pulled out their phones and began filming the dying fish as it gasped for air. The creature was caught in Guiyang City back in June, and experts in the field believe it to be a grass carp. This is a common species of freshwater fish found both in Asia and North America. But how in the world was it born with the head of a pigeon? The truth is that nobody knows. It was obviously some kind of bizarre mutation. It also wasn't perfectly pigeon. The fish didn't have a beak or anything, its head was just shaped like a bulb, with eyes on the side of his head that made it look like a beady-eyed bird. This sounds like a genetic malformation to me, but what do you think? Speaking of eyes, a mysterious creature with no eyes washed up on a beach in South Carolina and nobody could identify it. The terrifying monster had huge teeth, a weirdly shaped body, and it left Erica Constantine, the poor woman who found the thing while walking a dog, a little shaken. Erica's lived in the region for at least 5 years and has never seen anything like this. It looked like it was some kind of bone monster with almost none of its skin left. Even worse is that nobody could agree on its origin. The cops said it was a possum, some said it was a seal, and others claimed it to be a blood-sucking chupacabra. Erica even sent pictures of the creature to her friend at the College of Charleston to try and get answers, but it did no good. This scary creature is still unidentified.
Now here's something cute and unbelievable, yet a little disturbing. It's another hybrid species, the raccoon dog. According to the BBC, raccoon dogs recently terrorized a small village in the United Kingdom, attacking goats, knocking things over, and causing general mayhem. But kind of like the bearcat, the raccoon dog is not a raccoon or a dog. It's actually part of the canid family, most closely related to a fox or a badger. Apparently, raccoon dogs were first introduced into Europe from Asia as part of the fur trade. They were also traded as exotic pets because of their cuddly appearance. However, this is likely a bad idea as raccoon dogs can be extremely vicious. Luckily, they're too small to cause any serious damage. They are now mostly pests that eat garbage and attack livestock throughout parts of Europe.
Scientists have finally found a specimen of the most mysterious mammal in the world, a creature known as Zenkarella. The animal was captured in Bioko, a small island off the coast of West Africa. Up until now, the Zenkarella was only known to scientists through fossils. Nobody had ever seen the creature alive, and yet it's been on the Earth for about 49 million years. They came about after the extinction of the dinosaurs, about 35 million years before great apes ever evolved. Zenkarella existed back when Australia was still connected to Antarctica and the Himalayan mountains were, well, not even mountains. The animal looks a lot like a squirrel with fluffy black fur, but underneath its fur are lizard-like scales, making the animal incredibly strange. It's closely related to gliders, but somehow lost the ability to fly throughout the years. Out of 5,400 mammal species currently known, only the Zenkarella and 5 others can be considered the surviving members of ancient lineages. In other words, it's one of the most ancient mammals on the planet. A living specimen had never been found, though just recently hunters in Africa captured 3 of these mysterious rodents and donated them to science. Nobody knows how many are left in the wild, or if any human will ever see a Zenkarella alive. The animal was jokingly referred to as the ultimate Pokemon because nobody had ever been able to successfully capture a living specimen. Which one of these horrifying creatures freaked you out the most? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. If you haven't already, remember to hit that subscribe button for all the most awesome videos from epic wildlife. See you next time!